Good.
Very good.
Hi, everyone. Really a pleasure to be again here in our 10th PHARMA MES conference. It is really an honor and a pleasure to be with Bisham. So just to set the context a little bit, this project, the project that we are just sharing with you, has an extremely exposure. And the team went through a high pressure. And I really appreciate all the collaboration with NNIT specifically. Without you guys, this would have not been possible. Yeah? So the project came really unexpected. It was not in the portfolio. It was planned to be done in a couple of years. But I'm really honored to be presented with you this as a success story. So please, Bisham.
Thank you. So thanks, everyone. Thank you, Thomas and Manuel, for inviting me to speak. This project was an unexpected project. The result was just phenomenal, which is why we have a good opportunity to share that. What we want to take you through is what we call the batch release process, batch release dashboard. I know we've heard this term a few times today, so I hope this does have some relation with our partners here as well. The subject is about the batch release process and the way to track and identify tasks that are needed to release this to the QA teams. Yeah. Hanan will give us a bit of an insight into Lonza, our partner for this project. They were the ones actually bringing together the use case and the call for need. Also, a little look into what Lonza's digital journey was. And this is the reason I was already at Lonza. It was a big program. Data and digital is a big topic for Lonza. So everything really was established there already. So Hanan will just give us a little look at what that is. Also the digital journey, and then the trigger for the batch release process. So with the batch release process, a little bit about the situation, why we had this call to action, what team was established, how we went about the task, and actually then how we started to deliver this with some sense of urgency. Good. At the back of this is really all about preparation for COVID-19. Lonza is a CMO, which means they will produce the drugs on behalf of the biotechs. The biotechs were the ones leading the charge with creating the vaccine. But with this, we had to bring teams together very, very quickly, and this is how we actually then delivered and solved this particular problem. Yeah. Okay?
So imagine that you have a team that is building a complete new capacity in a record time. So the facilities are ready, the assets are going through engineering runs, but then we have our MES in place. Of course, MES was running. And then we realized that in order to be able to release those batches fast enough, we need to crunch a set of data. We talked today around data. We talked today this morning about data integrity. We talked about data integration. We talked about how important it is to deal with data. So at Lonza, we are a big CMO, but we are only 15,000 employees trying to deal with massive demand. So you have also seen how much the business is growing. Though that business growth brings the need for new systems, brings the need for new technologies to be able to deliver the products to our patients. So specifically in every batch, everything we do, there is a patient behind. So the technology, the skills, the engineering team is just building the capacity to ensure that that product reaches the patient. If you go to the next one, so that's a typical situation. Most probably say, whenever you go to a plant, yes, I have an MES, I have a LIMS, I have my data historian in place, but they are not well integrated. Yeah? So to be successful, I say success means the batch goes out of the door. It's not enough to excel in our EBRs. It's not enough to excel in having a single LIMS. No, we will only make success if the batch is reaching the patient. So that landscape was transformed. And what you see there is a simplified version of our data management strategy, which is part of our digital roadmap. So together with NNIT, we started, I guess, 18 months ago, a challenge to really produce high quality of data, to have a single point of truth for GMP decisions. So the platform that you see there, it was specifically architectured and designed to deliver GMP data. So this is trusted data. Yeah? So as every GMP systems, you need to integrate, you need to fix data. There is a reality. Not every piece of information that comes from a validated system, it's correct. So Bisham and the NNAT team, they know how difficult it is to fix data and make this data available again for a GMP purpose. But the long story short is this effort enabled us to be successful with the batch release tracker. This would not have happened so easily if our global data mart, GDM stands for the global data mart, would not be there. So that's why, it's a matter of timing. So I guess the team was gaining momentum, delivering high quality of reports for process validation, for tech transfers and process validation. So 2 sites running full speed, Portsmouth and FISP, and suddenly the call to action came. And that's why the team was repurposed, but this repurpose was sitting on a solid infrastructure. So this piece of infrastructure that you see there is an architecture, is a global system that is delivering data internally for our internal customers, but also for our external customers. Sinead, you mentioned in your previous presentation how important it is for a CDMO to give transparency about the data. So the same quality of data that the team is delivering to MSAT or to operations is the same data set that goes into a customer. You don't see there in that platform, but in that case, today, and specifically for the case that we are presenting today, the data was visible for the customer in near real time. So it's not enough that we control the batch release process and we know what's going on with the deviations, with the loading the results, with the ABR. It's important that the customer gets a visibility, because this is what gives the customer the confidence that that batch will hit the door at the right time. And with that, I hand over back to you.
Very good. Thanks, Hanan. So the trigger actually to bring in NIT was this project to integrate data from the many different systems. The actual project of integrating had been circulated around Lonza, which is why Hanan and his team had received a call to say, we know you're doing a lot of work in analytics. We do have a big problem we need to solve. Could you help us? And that was a trigger for this particular piece of work. The 2 teams involved were the QC teams and the QA teams, but there were a lot of other contributors towards this. And this is what it made an interesting project. OK. So back to the situation. I don't think anyone escaped Corona. But behind the scenes, I know governments were managing the people and the country issues. The biotechs were leading the way to create this vaccine. And they were doing that at full speed. Behind those biotechs, they didn't have the capabilities to produce the drug, which is why they then worked with companies like Lonza to actually do the production. Now, this came very, very quickly. Don't have to explain why. But it needed a lot of people to come together very, very quickly within very, very short timescales, and then form a project and the capability to produce this very, very quickly. Now, that was fine. They got the teams together. People were taking off the projects, very high priority. What they didn't have was the full time to establish how they were going to do this. So they didn't have the full set of tools. They didn't have the processes. They really just created things on the fly. Now, one of the tools they used to do this, because there was a lot of contributors, was Excel. I think we probably all use that stopgap in time. Yep. So the visual, this screenshot is actually called a batch CV. This is the Excel that they had created. And where you see the lines is actually then the different contributors to track all the different tasks and the metrics and the delivery dates that needed to be met to ensure the release of the batch. Many different sections needed to be completed. Very organized, looks very nice. Call a batch CV. You could see everything about an individual batch on this one sheet. The problem with this one sheet was the volume and the complexity to populate the sheet. So each of these different sections, the different teams would have to go off to the respective systems, look up the data, pick it out, update the sheet. Others were done during the meeting. Some were done via email. So it was a very, very manual, laborious task. Just for the 2 batches that were being the first batches produced, it was taking approximately 2 hours a day. And this was 2 hours a day of specialist resources. So this is time that those teams that had the responsibility to manage the production and the readiness for the production ramp-up could not spend on managing a manual task. That's when we got the call. Is there something we can do to help the situation? Can we automate it? Can we make it easier for the teams to bring in data? That way, Thomas and Hanan aligned. We had the A-team created, brought in a few resources to help us get going very, very quickly. And then the team was onboarded and started to look at how we can automate and make this process quicker. Okay. So the actual requirement was to automate this Excel, which was fine. It's Excel, so if you bring in the right experts, they can go through, understand what you need to automate, and they can build it in. And that's great. So in the first week, what they were able to do is do some automation to calculate the dates, and also validations and traffic lights. So when you have this batch CV, you can actually see then which dates are going off track. Those are the ones then you can go back with the respective teams and find out what's not going to plan, what is the latest date, and manage it there. And that's fine. The issue with the Excel tracker wasn't so much the visualizations or the automation. It was the fact that it couldn't cope with the volume. So those teams were managing 24 individual worksheets every day. And across worksheets, they were from 3 different workbooks, all of them a little bit different. Now, if the volume stayed as it was, they could manage it 2 hours a day. But these were 2 batches from an early run. This volume was going to continually grow, grow, and grow. And we know after we had discussions of this, they were going to get up to something like 120 worksheets to be updated every day. And when you kind of play that fact back, you know, the greatest team in the world is not going to be able to manage 120 worksheets in a day, especially with specialist resources. Okay? So there, we concluded it was a great stopgap. Good to actually get a good set of requirements, but it had its limitations. We were trying to bring systems, data in from other systems, and because each of the sheets was different, and there was some instability, people inserting rows and columns as they do, it always broke the automation. So once we understood the task with the volumes, and that this was only going to grow, we knew that this was not the right solution to go forward. It was good that we saw it very, very early. We understood it very, very early. And that then gave us time to look at another approach. Yeah? So ultimately, what we had to do was find something that the teams would be able to use. It would be easier to update, take them less time. They could navigate. It gave them the transparency they needed of what was happening in their operations, where things were on track and where things were off track. And then we could scale it up to other products. Okay? That was the first of my sleepless nights with this project, because we'd done the automation, but as we kind of understood now the greater challenge, we didn't have a next step. So we had to refocus the team. And with that, I had to think really long and hard. We had a team on the ground. We did not have time to bring in a new technology, a new vendor, create a new custom tool. So we had to really be agile and work with what we had. And I already had a team. We had actually great stakeholder support. We had good support from the business users and our management team here. So we had to work within the boundaries of what we had there. And to do that, I've picked out just a few of the attributes and the skills that we actually employed here. The first one is, most important, we kept the focus on the users. The reason we were there is because that group needed support. And if that team could not do their job, then it would impact the production of the vaccine. And our job was to make sure that that team was successful. And that was a fact, actually, that we played back every day. So we'd been meeting with the teams, and it was actually necessary to keep the team continually focused, just that they remember what it is they're doing and how they are contributing to vaccine production. Yep. Creativity was a key attribute because we didn't have anything available, so we had to be very creative in what we did, especially with the tools, the critical thinking. This we actually used a lot to probe. I would say when we first got in, especially with the team in Visp, they were also released little bits of information at little times. You had to probe. You had to continually probe what was going on, what they were doing, where their problems are. And by continually probing, we started to understand a little more about their pain points. And if we did not do that, and if we took the information on the face value of why we went in, I don't think we would have been able to understand the problem as fully as it was. So just being able to probe was actually the reason we changed our strategy this early on. We stayed agile, so we used agile as a methodology to implement and develop the next application I'll show you. It was a platform strategy, so we didn't create a singular unique tool. We actually used what was there, and that was referencing back to the global data mart. All of those applications, the platforms, the integration, they were all there. And for us then to really adapt and deliver something fast, we had to use what was available. And that's where digital transformations actually add to that, because part of the digital transformations is implementing platform strategies. And there you create many apps and then deliver faster. Okay. And analytics was the final outcome.
Good.
Cool. Good. So now to introduce you to the batch release dashboard. There are two components to this, the dashboard and the tracker. So starting from the left, the bottom left, there is a SharePoint. This was the easiest tool that we used to convert the Excel directly to a set of lists which were akin to database tables. We could do this very, very quickly. It was very stable. And with SharePoint, you already have a data entry interface. So by converting the Excel, using the Excel as a set of requirements, converting it to SharePoint, we were able to very, very quickly replicate that batch CV on SharePoint. Top left is the data. The connections to these systems was already established. So there was nothing new that we had to do there, apart from redefine the filter criteria. So with MES, with the LMS systems and deviations, we already had those connections, so we could integrate them into the dashboard using an ETL tool. That made the integration very easy. It didn't happen from day one, but it was shortly after. And just if you do a separate project and try to integrate that, that already adds 7 or 8 months into your project. So doing that actually made this project very fast. But the main product of it is in the middle. It's the batch release dashboard. Now, originally, the bottom part is the tracker. That is the Excel. On those, what we call sections, you have a set of tasks. You have a set of target dates. You have the actual dates, and then you have some parameters which tell you how you're performing. And the basic parameters to say, you've got X amount of days to do this task. When you get to 3 days, it gets to yellow. When you're due or overdue, it gets to red. And that way, every task is automatically measured. You get a good, quick visual of the status, and you're able then to react to it. But it's just the simplicity of performing the updates. Above that is the piece that we thought we'd add on as an extra, but actually this became the driving force between the dashboard. What it gives is an overview of all the batches in production. And you have filter criteria, so you could filter the release date. You can scroll down to look at all batches, past batches, and also future batches. And each of those columns is a section. So on these sections, what they will tell you is, in that particular area, am I on track or off track? And if you see a red, a task is off track, you can drill down into the individual section and see what's going off. Now, what that enabled you to do is then not manage every worksheet. it led you to then manage by exception, which is I only need to look at and manage the batches which are going off track. Yeah. So that actually became the main driving force behind the dashboard. That's what transformed the process, effectively. The two other elements we've added, because we're tracking dates, we track the target dates, the new forecast date, and the actual release dates, we're able to get KPIs from that. So we can then see very easily which parts of the process or which teams are actually going beyond their commitments on a regular basis. So over a time span, we can see performance of these batches. And one new thing that we did, and this is more because we use the Microsoft stack, is we enabled some ports. And we then were able to share this dashboard with the customer. So this was the first time that this was ever done. And what this enabled is the customer then to start up this dashboard and see exactly the same information that the teams were seeing. I would say exactly. We redacted a few pieces. But they could see the dashboard. They could see the dates. They could see which tasks are going off track. And this actually then built up a good set of collaboration, that the daily meetings that Lonza was having with the customer were all based on this dashboard. Previously, they were exporting data on Excels, copying it to Teams, sharing on PDFs, but now they have this online tool. It's all up to date. It's all real-time data. They talk about the same things across the two companies. And this has just been a huge collaboration builder. Yep. So a couple of things I picked out as we reflected back on the project. Why was this a great project? I mean, it wasn't only the cause that we were doing this for. We were able to then bring together these different teams from these different departments working on a single platform and a single tool. They were able to see the same thing. They understood the same thing. They could update it the same way. So with this project, we were able to harmonize the process, make it easier for them to work. They had everything that they needed within this one tool, and it drove efficiency. That was enabling the collaboration. The accountability was an interesting one, because all teams are delivering, and you're able then to see which teams are actually not hitting their own target dates. So within those daily meetings, even with the external customer, if there's a task going off track, then you could also hold them accountable for tasks that they may not be doing to then drive towards this release. Yeah. It was simple, it was low cost, and I think I'm being conservative with the time saving. I think we know it's a lot more now. This project was not done on a business case benefit. It was really to solve a problem. But we know now that with the volume of production, it's saving almost 4 people's time a day. And that's 4 people that would have been going every day to these Excels and populating the data and able to track it. And we did this in 6 weeks from starting. So this was the call that we had to start, the first resources onboarded, understanding the problem, and then from delivering of the MVP. Okay. So this was an extreme project. I wouldn't recommend everyone to do this, but it was possible because we did do it. And how it worked out then, the first week, we had people on the ground, and we're grateful that we had people also like Carsten, who came along, because it was a team that didn't have an understanding of the process. So the people that we had were very technical resources, and we needed a crash course in this whole area. So we had this team help us understand what the situation was. We probed the customer. After the first week, when we understood a little more about the volumes and the future challenges, then we knew we had to devise a new plan. The second week was about brainstorming and understanding what we could do. We actually created 3 POCs. I would say there were no failed POCs, because this wasn't a project that we could experiment too widely with. What we did had to work. So out of the POCs, we created 3. We settled on 1, and that's the one we then said, we will deliver that one. Yeah. The MVP was important. It's a very complex project, and we know we had time pressures. We could not deliver everything that was being asking for, so we really had to manage what we could deliver, which was, at a very minimum, was the batch release CV, plus a few other bits with the dashboard. But we did have to manage what we could, because otherwise, again, we would risk what we're delivering in the time. The 4th week and the 5th week, this was delivering the application. We released it for testing. We got feedback. It was very dynamic. There were changes coming up almost daily. Some of these we put into the backlog. Some of them we said, OK, that would really benefit this process and this product. So we did it. So we remained very agile. We didn't say no to everything. We took the ones actually that would contribute to this application. The 5th week closed off testing. We then did the training to the users. And on week 6, we had the big task of moving all the data from these Excels across to this tracker. Because they were live running batches, everything had to be transferred. So this cost us the entire weekend, very late nights and evenings, but it was necessary to work. Some of the challenges, I guess you have some challenges as well, but we were really against the clock, and the clock was the ramp-up of production. We knew that the teams were struggling with their current volume. We knew that they were still at a minimum volume. If they were taking 2 hours on that minimum batch production, what would happen when it doubles 6 weeks later? What happens when it triples? We know that volume has gone up 15 times now. So for us, we wanted to at least break it that before production doubled, we had this in place that they could switch over. Once we had that, then we can continue building. It was something new, and we did have some resistance in what we were doing. I think that's natural as well. We didn't really have time to do a lot of change management. This will be a lesson I think I learned for the next one. But when you do something new in a different ways, you just have to expect that you will get some challenges there. And for us to keep the purpose, we really used our purpose to drive through those challenges. Yep. The testing and turnaround of changes, the migration of data, they were also very laborious tasks to manage. They were the challenges. Okay. But ultimately, why we didn't fail, and this was a no-fail project, that we kept the purpose at the back end of this project. So why we were doing it, it was not to deliver a fancy dashboard. It wasn't something that we could share with management. It was to support the teams involved in the production of the vaccine. So if they were not able to do their work, then that would impact the production. And for us to do that, we kept it very, very simple. Anything more complex would have taken more time to develop, train, and deploy. So we kept it very simple. We reused as many things as we could. We stayed very, very agile. As we started to develop the dashboard, we started to get new insights there. And we then flipped from the SharePoint, which was the main focus, off to the dashboard. Because that was giving management, it was giving the teams, it was giving the customer the transparency that they needed. And the other reason we didn't fail is we had really excellent support from Hanan, his team, the stakeholders in the production plants, and those teams.
Yeah. Just to give an idea, the way the project was kicked off was directly from the Senior Vice President of Quality, together with the business unit, and engaging a fully dedicated team. I mean, there is no science on that. We know how to do it, so getting such a strong mandate, having those big guys in one room saying, this is important for us, we cannot be successful if you're not fully dedicated. So it's the people that would join the team, but a clear mandate top-down. But the message was crystal clear. So the commercial team, quality, operations with one voice. Bottom-up, people in the labs on the QA release team say, if we don't do anything, we will fail. So embracing, it was really top-down, embracing bottom-up, bringing the right team together at the right time, and having the people available. I know it was a stretch, but what made that happen is really having the technology team, the technical people at the right time with the right knowledge. The problem statement was crystal clear. when they spell out, they say they were trying to fix with Excel something that is impossible to fix with Excel. But it's a typical reaction from people who are in panic mode almost. Say, I need to keep control. I go and build my Excel and I start calculating, but this Excel, we realize, will not bring us anywhere. So the strong support, fundamental, clear message, laser focus. So say, if you have to deliver in 6 weeks, prioritization comes on an hourly basis. I don't know, Bisham,
but it was completely true.
Not only the daily calls, it was on an hourly basis, what needs to be done to achieve our goal. Yeah. So this is a story that was really fantastic to share with you, and now we are still in the journey. That was, like I said, that's the beginning of
an ongoing journey. Good. Final results, 6 weeks from starting. It was clear that we continued to make changes along the way. We shared with the customer. But the fact is we kept it very, very simple. And that was the winning solution to the batch release dashboard. So thank you very much. Happy to take questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bisham and Hernan, for sharing this. Do we have any questions before we go into the break? Can you use the microphone over there?
My name is Wolfert from CureVac. And how did you manage these quick changes in prioritization? Did you work with a Kanban board and physically or digital?
We used Excel. We used Excel because we had many different contributors and trying to collect it. We had 2 stand-ups in a day with Agile, and we had to keep the connection. But those teams also were focused on production. So we had actually limited time with them to record all the different changes. We had it on Excel, and we prioritized it that way. Yeah.
Everyone wants to go on break, so I'm running. Yeah. I know this was a reactive project and it was a reactive solution, but what were some of the things that you found after the project that you want to look towards the future of, okay, that was reactive. Excel is not a solution forever. It's for right now. Mm-hmm. What is looking forward for Lonza, and what were some of the improvements that you thought about in the next year, 5 year, 10 year?
I can pick that one. So the positive aspect is now we have a product. From the emergency mode, we build a product. So it's our integrated batch release platform. It's part of the digital roadmap. We have an aggressive, now due to the good publicity that we got in FISP, we have internally different site heads, quality groups asking for the tool. The tool is a global platform. It's now available, so it's relatively easy to deploy into additional sites. So what we are focusing right now is really planning 2022. So how can we, with the collaboration with the NIT, how can we make this platform available for everyone? Also in full biologics, in microbial, in small molecules, cell and gene. So we have so many different modalities where the advantage is they all run on the same platforms. So we have a single LIMS, we have standardized MES, we have TrackWise still as DMS. All those systems, due to this effort, are now connected. So if every site is having some discipline, important to mention that this tool really exposes the lack of discipline on maintaining data. The system can be as reliable as the quality of the data that you enter. If you're not entering the parameters correctly, it's still a system. I mean, it will still spell out the wrong status.
Oh, we buried that thing. Yeah. But just to add on to the question, this has been now deployed 15 other projects. We did this as a one-off. It's so successful. Obviously, it plugged the gap. 15 more sites will take it, and it's also been adopted by other groups within Lonza. So from being a one-off, it's now a program that we'll cycle on. But I think the learning we got from this is not everything has to be a big solution. That if there is one particular topic, which is a particular pain point, we had the advantage, we already had GDM in place, we had the integration, but reusing the tools that you have now on a Microsoft platform, maybe Power Apps or others, you could actually focus and deliver something very, very fast. It does not always have to be a big implementation. 6 weeks, it wasn't extreme, but then again, we're doing other deployments still within 8-week time frame. not with the same pressure.
Could I follow on from that?
Yeah.
So the Excel sheets that used to be the tools that everybody uses. Hands up anyone who's fighting with people who, yeah, exactly. But you took Excel and put it into SharePoint, basically.
I did,
and put
yes.
a really elegant front end on it. The Excel sheets, are they gone now? Are they
Yes.
so nobody's using Excel anymore?
Well, the ones that haven't adopted batch release, and those are the ones we're targeting now.
Yeah. But, so the ones that have, those Excel sheets are locked, they're gone, they're
Yep.
in a drawer somewhere.
Yep.
All right.
We see people manage it on Word documents as well.
And people are just doing the same job, but on SharePoint instead of in Excel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's mini project management. Each batch is a mini project.
But SharePoint only for the data that was not available in one of the sources. So the manually.
Yeah. That's the gaps.
That's a way to
Exactly.
cover the gap in a very simple way. Use a SharePoint form.
So
And
data
then you-
that was already available is integrated,
Yeah.
and where you were typing stuff in Excel is now being typed in SharePoint.
In SharePoint.
Yeah.
And preferably get rid of typing and find some way of getting people to enter data, without having to type it in. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, just integrating the LMS system and the deviation systems, just having it all on screen, that saved them hours of work in a week.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is because I think I've got a lot of people who would like to stop using Excel but just don't know how. And they can't see that, like, there's nobody in well, there's two people in my organization that would believe that you could do it in 2 months. That you could say, okay, stop using an Excel sheet and start using SharePoint in 2 months. They think this is something that's, way in the future, and it's a huge project and it's going to take forever. So the fact that you stopped using Excel and started using SharePoint, I think, is fascinating.
Yeah. From that first day of that 6 weeks, Excel was dead.
Thank you.
All right. So one last question, Wim, and then
Coffee break.
Yeah.
we go for the coffee.
It's a short question. It's about the training that the people need. How much training did they do or how? I think it's important.
Yeah. We trained everyone that had to use it, everyone that needed to see the status of batches. One of the reasons we kept it very simple is because the training also would be simple. It's tools that they already used, and navigation was easy. The training was 30 minutes, so we ran through what we came from, which is what they knew, and how to do it then in the SharePoint and the dashboard, which is really around navigation. It was so simple. CEOs, direct reports, exec team are using it, no training.
All right.
Good.
Thank you very much, Bisham. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Hernan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.